live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All right, live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of 365 Sports here in beautiful New York City. Here we go, folks. It's Super Bowl week. Welcome on in to the Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. And you can get at me on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. And as you watch us live now, as you are watching us via YouTube, you could always just subscribe here right at 365 Sports. Please do that, and we will greatly appreciate it. And as the week does go on, we will be out in San Francisco. I'm doing a college basketball game tonight for Compass Media Network, so couldn't get out earlier in the week and join my 365 Sports colleagues. So I do have a game tonight between number 13 ranked Kansas going to Lubbock to square off against the Red Raiders, who are 11th in the country. So if you're listening to this in podcast form, by the way, and you're not listening to us live right now, make sure you go to youtube.com/@365sportsyt and make sure you hit that subscribe button as well, as we continue to grow this already great community that we do have at 365 Sports. So I am in New York today and tomorrow, get to San Francisco coming up on a Tuesday night, and then we will do 3 days of content on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Here's going to be our scheduled guests live in person coming up throughout the week. Tedero McMillan, Brian Jones, Logan Ryan, Deion Dawkins, Sean Merriman, Jeff Garcia, Dennis Pitta and Todd Heap, Daniel Cormier, Patrick Willis, Benjamin Watson, Sean Alexander, Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen, Kyle and Christian Juszczyk, Justin Gaethje, Trey McBride, Emmett Smith, Ron Rivera, Devin Hester, DeMar Hamlin, and how about this one that I just added on the fold to Friday, Jeff Ross, the comedian. So we'll share some laughs with him. But Garrett Ross is already at the Super Bowl in San Francisco. He is getting our set ready, right? Joining all the crazy folks that we have out there as well, with Andrew Valade, with Smokey, with Paul Catalina. So let's check in right out of the gate before we talk a little Seahawks and Patriots. We'll clearly delve into the matchup, as we will have all throughout the week. And we will get to Lofa Tatopu, the former Seahawks linebacker. His father did play for the Patriots. He's going to join us coming up in about 30 minutes from now. But Garrett, did you arrive safely to San Francisco? How are we doing today?
Man, we're good. Yeah, dude, we got here last night. Everything went well. And then we get into town and we go to baggage claim and we go to pick up. Now, everybody's doing good. We got everything. And then all of a sudden, Paul's bag that has the computer, it's got everything we need to go on there, is magically gone. And we're looking, and it takes about 30 minutes. Paul goes, starts talking to the people. What happens was a guy who claims his bag looked like Paul's snatched Paul's, left his. Now, Paul's bag has this massive Florida State logo on it, right? You can't miss this. This guy has a damn Donald Duck. So for whatever reason, he mixed these bags up, and we have no equipment all day. We're panicking. Paul made like 3 trips to the airport. He's on the phone, and we finally get everything last night. So we were able to get in, get set up this morning. But after that fiasco, we're good to go. We got a nice setup right in the middle right here. Everything.
Garrett, you still there? Whatever. The connection stinks, obviously. They're in a convention center with 3,000 people. Oh, you back?
Shit.
Oh, well, you just said that on the air. It's fine. Just take yourself off. If we were on radio, folks, like how we used to be, that would have been a problem. He just goes, I can't hear shit. What a great live moment that is. And now he's buffering. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be gold. Because wait, just wait. If he can't get on the, via connected, And then am I not connected? Oh, no, there we go. I am fully connected. So maybe we won't be able to talk to Garrett too much today, which is fine. But how about that? Paul Catalina, who was a nervous wreck leading up to all this because there was some scheduling problems with the NFL. We were figuring out where our set was going to be and all that stuff. I made a few phone calls and helped fix the problem. So Paul was on like the edge of his seat. He was sitting on pins and needles. At one point, we were going to cancel the trip. I'm like, no. Don't cancel the trip. Whatever you do, do not cancel the trip. We have a responsibility to the audience. We're going to go. We're going to have fun. Everything's going to be great. And the next thing you know, they land there. We get there, which at one point was going to look like was going to be the toughest part. And then some dope who wasn't paying attention, was just in a rush, goes and takes Paul's bag. And of course, not that we would have wanted to see Paul, by the way, without his clothing bag, because that wouldn't have been good. But Paul's bag has all the equipment in it. And my, oh my, Paul's bag gets taken, but thankfully, eventually it was found. So away we go on the Zach Gelb Show on a very busy Monday right here on 365 Sports. Oh, boy. What a start. What a start. What a start. All righty. Let's get to it. Super Bowl week gets here. And I think a lot of people are believing that this game is going to be a blowout. Now, I know people are going to sit back and they're going to take everything I just say with a grain of salt, and they're going to say, Zach, you are a Patriot fan. Of course, you're going to be optimistic with the Patriots, but I've picked against my team before in the big game. I will never forget where the Patriots a second time, this was Super Bowl 52. We're going up against the Eagles. And when I was breaking down the matchup, I just did not believe that the Patriots would beat the Eagles. I just didn't think that was going to happen. So I picked the Eagles to beat the Patriots. And I remember saying on the air, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. It's actually weird that I feel like I'm on an island this week with how confident I am in the Patriots. Not that I think they're easily going to win. I think this is going to be a really good close game. But all last week, I thought the Patriots going to win. And as we start Monday, usually as a fan, you would think, okay, eventually the nerves are going to settle in. Eventually you're going to get worried. Eventually you're going to start to think that the Seattle Seahawks are going to win the game. But as we sit here on the Monday of Super Bowl week, as we are inching closer and closer to the game on Sunday, I think the Patriots are going to win the game. Now, if you tell me that when we get back to New York and I do the show here a week from now that the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. But if this game is a blowout, folks, like how a lot of people think Seattle's just going to blow out the Patriots, that I would be surprised about. And these teams, and I get it. You look at the Patriots this year, all they've done is won, but throughout the year, people have questioned the strength of schedule with how easy their schedule is. And even in the postseason, you look at the game up against the Chargers, where they beat the Chargers after most people thought the Chargers would beat the Patriots. And people say, oh, well, the Chargers, they've been without their two tackles the entirety of the year. Justin Herbert's playing with one arm. So it's not that good of a victory. It's not something that will give the Patriots praise. And I was at that game in snowy Foxborough up against the Texans. And don't get me wrong, I did not feel good walking out of that stadium with the Patriots' offensive performance. Sure, when they needed to, they found Pop Douglas on fourth down for the touchdown. Stephon Diggs got into the end zone. Kayshon Boutte had a beautiful one-handed catch down the right sideline in the snow in the end zone. And that was a defensive performance of the Patriots where it was turnover that they were forcing. But because C.J. Stroud was just so hellacious in that game, people looked at Drake May's performance, which he did not play great in the contest. He was fumbling the football left and right. And people go, if any other quarterback was really playing for the Houston Texans, the Patriots probably don't win the game. And then sure, I'm not going to sugarcoat the AFC Championship game. The Patriots were playing field possession in the second half. Field position in the second half. They knew that game was basically just don't turn over the football and you would win it. Jarrett Stidham outside of an early drive where they did get a touchdown and they converted that 3rd and 10, which eventually did lead to the score. Outside of that one drive, Jarrett Stidham was a non-factor in the game. And if Bo Nix was playing, do the Broncos have a better chance to win? Yes. Does it mean that the Broncos would be in the Super Bowl? Not necessarily. And that snow just came out of nowhere in the second half and really did impact that game greatly. But both teams are playing in the same conditions. So I understand if you sit here from afar and you just go, okay, I anticipate, I expect, I believe that the Seahawks are going to beat the Patriots. The Patriots rode has been fairly easy. I could understand if that is your take and that's the way that you're going to look at this one. But when I look at these, this matchup, and I look at these two teams, I think they are very similar. Drake May, I know it has not been a great postseason, but Drake May has been the MVP, an MVP candidate in the NFL. He's a finalist. The award will come out on Thursday night. I can make the case that Drake May has been more valuable to the Patriots' success this year than Matthew Stafford, because you look at Drake May and his weapons, it's Stephon Diggs, it's Kayshon Boutte, it's Matt Collins, it's Pop Douglas, it's Kyle Williams, it's Hunter Henry, it's Austin Hooper. When you look at the LA Rams, you have Puka Nacua, one of the best wide receivers in football. You have Kyron Williams, a really good, underrated running back in this league. You have Devontae Adams as a number 2 wide receiver. That's a heck of a 1-2 punch with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So you look at the weapons that the Rams have compared to the Patriots, there is a difference. But I do think Stafford will win the MVP come Thursday night. But Drake May, in my estimation, is going to be the runner-up for the award. So you look at the quarterbacks, Drake May and Sam Darnold. Who's playing better this postseason? There's no question. It is Sam Darnold with what he did up against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And even though he didn't really have to do much up against the 49ers, it was such a lopsided performance. And he had that oblique injury that he was dealing with. But I look at both these quarterbacks, and when I sit here and evaluate both these quarterbacks, I think Drake May has the higher ceiling compared to Sam Darnold. But for both these quarterbacks, I know this is not earth-shattering analysis, turnovers are still a big key. Like Drake May with that offensive line and it not being up to par this year, especially in the last few weeks of this season, in the postseason run, Drake May has been susceptible to turnovering, to fumbling the football and getting that ball stripped from him. So that is something that you look at the Seahawks with their front, you would feel like they're going to be able to take advantage of this Patriots offensive line. But on the other side, you look at a guy in Sam Darnold who, for most of his career, was known as someone that got mono, was seeing ghosts up against the Patriots when he was the quarterback of the Jets, then gets to Carolina, had a nice little run for like 3 games, then got hurt. After that, finds his way in San Francisco, where he did make a Super Bowl as the backup quarterback, and winds up last year in Minnesota, had a really good season, a resilient season, a season that no one saw coming, but it ended in frustration because Sam Darnold, in the 2 biggest games of the year, just coughed up the football. And in the offseason, the Vikings made a decision, which is now believed to be a mistake, where the Vikings couldn't retain Daniel Jones. They went with J.J. McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers supposedly was interested, and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah didn't want him. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah now out as the Minnesota Vikings general manager, which we talked about last week to end the show on Friday. And you had a guy in Sam Darnold that was in Minnesota, and if he didn't play poorly in the last 2 games of the season, quite frankly, he's probably still there, because the timing of that was up against Green Bay when they won that game and they had the joy celebration in the locker room. That was the week where the narrative shifted on Sam Darnold, where it was like, how could you get rid of this guy with the season that he's having? You can't get rid of him, even though you just drafted J.J. McCarthy with the 10th overall pick, and McCarthy was out for the season. And don't tell me you can't move off of a quarterback that quickly that you just drafted, because look at what the 49ers did. The 49ers moved mountains to go get Trey Lance, and in a very short time, they abandoned the plan of Trey Lance after giving up multiple first-round picks to go get him, because Kyle Shanahan really did believe in Brock Purdy. When you look at Kevin O'Connell, he believed in Sam Darnold, but with how the season ended, I think it was easy. I think it was convenient to just sit back and say, all right, we drafted this quarterback 10th overall in J.J. McCarthy. Is Sam really Sam because of Sam, or is he really Sam because of the product of our system with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, with Aaron Jones, with TJ Hawkinson, and also the offensive brilliance of a Kevin O'Connell? So, I get that decision, and Sam goes to Seattle. Sam has been really good this year, but he's had a lot of turnovers. And entering the postseason, we looked at the Seahawks. We said, okay, they're the number 1 overall seed. But the big question with Seattle was not their playmakers. It was not their defense. It was not their head coach. It was, can the quarterback in the big moments, can he step up and shine? And up against the 49ers, it was a blowout. Up against the Rams, he delivered when needed to, and he was really good in the game. So you enter this Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, and just looking at the quarterbacks, you look at Drake May, and he still has to have his playoff moment. Sam Darnold now has basically 2 playoff moments, and I believe that the majority of people, when they break down this matchup, are going to look at it and give the quarterback edge to the Seahawks. But if Drake doesn't turn over the football, and I get it, it's a major if, I do think the Patriots have the better quarterback. And that's going to be, this is the key to the game. It's really 2 things. It's the offensive lines, which the Seahawks do have the edge over the Patriots, but it's the quarterback. Which quarterback is going to protect this ball better? And I know that may be, oh, okay, that's not the most earth-shattering analysis in the world. Duh. But whichever quarterback protects the football better is going to win this game. But I truly do believe that. And for Drake May, he has had pedestrian results through the first 3 postseason games of his career. But this is a moment in better weather, out on the West Coast, in Santa Clara, where he could really use his legs in addition to his arm to help guide the Patriots to do just enough to beat the Seattle Seahawks. And for the Patriots, they got to force Sam Darnold to be the old Sam Darnold. The old Sam Darnold, we think that has left his body, but it could still be in there somewhere, even with how good Sam Darnold is. Now, you look at the rest of these teams. Kenneth Walker is good, but the Patriots' run defense is phenomenal. And so far in this postseason, with getting Milton Williams back, having Robert Spillane, even though he's not been 100%, teams have not been able to run the football up against the Patriots in the postseason. So that's another matchup where I'll be curious in this one. If the Patriots are able to contain Kenneth Walker and keep him under wraps, which the Patriots, I have good confidence they'll be able to do, you could ask Sam Darnold to maybe throw this football up to 40 times in this game. And if he does, can the Patriots have a turnover or 2 that does change the complexion of this game? Now, the Patriots running back room, it's led by Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson has had a heck of a journey. He was a really good Patriot player. Then last year had a bunch of fumbles. Early on this year has had a bunch of fumbles. And Mike Vrabel was in that game up against Buffalo where the Patriots really had their coming out party, and they beat Buffalo the first time and the only time this season in that first matchup in Orchard Park. If Bill Belichick was still coaching the Patriots, I think Ramondre Stevenson would not have had the season that he did have. I think Ramondre Stevenson would have been buried on the bench. He would have been jettisoned to the bench. He would have never came back in that second half of the Buffalo game because the turnovers have been an issue for 2 years. But ever since that game up against Buffalo, knock on wood, and not John Gruden, knock on wood if you're with me, but a little superstitious knock on wood, Ramondre Stevenson has been protecting that football. Now, the wild card in this game for the Patriots is TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson has been dancing too much in the postseason. But if he could hit the hole running, and if TreVeyon Henderson, even if it's not there, could bounce one out to the outside, TreVeyon Henderson has explosive big play potential. If the Patriots win this game, I would not be surprised if TreVeyon Henderson breaks off a run, even up against this really good Seattle defense, for like 40 yards or something like that. So when I look at this one, I think the 1-2 punch of TreVeyon Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson is slightly better than the Seattle Seahawks just having Kenneth Walker, who's a really good back. And I've liked Kenneth Walker a lot going back to his time at Michigan State, where he just abused the Michigan Wolverines in one of those games. But no Zach Charbonnet. Remember, in that game up against San Francisco, he did tear his ACL and he's out for the season. Now, when you continue to look through this matchup, the tight end rooms, it's not an exciting tight end matchup in this one. Like AJ Barner is a solid tight end. Hunter Henry is a solid tight end, a favorite of Drake May. So I kind of think it's a wash. But really, where the Seahawks have the advantage over the Patriots, and this is going to be the biggest key to the game for the Patriots, it's the offensive line. The Seahawks have a good, competent, efficient offensive line. The Patriots' offensive line, Will Campbell coming back from that injury. Jared Wilson is there at the left guard spot. On the right side, Owenu and Moses are solid, but Morgan Moses always gets dinged up. Where when you look at the Seahawks offensive line, anchored by Charles Cross, that offensive line unit is better. And the Seahawks front is one of the best fronts in the league. So that left tackle and left guard spot for the Patriots, I think, will really determine if they could just hold their blocks, if they could just be average in the game or maybe above average. You don't even need to be good. You don't even need to be great because of the mobility of Drake May. But if they could just be average, I think that is what is ultimately going to determine if the Patriots are going to sink or if they're going to sink or if they're going to swim on Super Bowl Sunday. So that's like the real glaring edge to me that the Seahawks have over the Patriots on the offensive side of the ball. It is the offensive line. Now, wide receivers, sure, on paper, Jackson Smith-Njigba's elite. Cooper Kupp has won a Super Bowl MVP. Rashid Shaheed has been a good, diverse weapon for the Seahawks. But for the Pats, their group as a unit works well. With Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins getting back into the fold. Pop Douglas has big play potential. Kyle Williams has big play potential. So yes, the Seahawks weapons in the pass catching game are better than the Patriots, but it really shows how valuable Drake May has been, where he's developed that connection with Kayshon Boutte. Stephon Diggs has found a little bit the fountain of youth since going to New England. And Matt Collins is just a big team chemistry guy. And don't be surprised if Matt Collins does catch a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. So you look at the offenses between these two offenses, the Patriots and the Seahawks. Quarterbacks, turnovers. Offensive line, can the Patriots offensive line hold up? Now, going to the defense. The Seahawks defensive front is one of the best in the league. Byron Murphy, DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, who's a stud, and Derek Hall. But the Patriots defensive line, especially in the interior, is damn good. With Christian Barmore, with Kyrus Tonga, with Milton Williams. The Patriots defensive front is really good. And as of late, Corey Durden's been a good player for them in this postseason. Elijah Ponder has been a good player for them on that defensive line. I look at the defensive linemen. It's tough for a defensive lineman to win a Super Bowl MVP. It really is. But when you look back at this game, the winner of this game, it could be between the two Williams. Milton Williams is a game changer. He's a game wrecker. Leonard Williams is the same way. And don't be surprised, even if they're not forcing the turnovers, like even if they're not the one recovering the fumble, even if they're not the one that is forcing the strip sack. But if there's an interception in this game, and I would think that each quarterback could throw a pick in this one, Milton Williams may force it. Leonard Williams may force it as well. Now, from a linebacking perspective, we will see who the Patriots are going to have with the health of Harold Landry being in question, but they've been without him for a good chunk of this season. But the Patriots do have Robert Spillane. We'll see how he's healing up in the AFC Championship game. Christian Ellis has been able to lay the wood and has been a linebacker that's just been in the right spots this season. But Caleb Von Chason out of LSU has been a heck of a player for the Patriots this year. And he's probably, I know he's a free agent, he's probably playing himself into a big contract this offseason. But that is a guy, him and Milton Williams have been two huge acquisitions for the Patriots. And we know what the Seahawks could do in their front. Their linebackers, Ernest Jones, and with Derek, and you go through Drake Thomas, they are a formidable linebacker unit as well. Now, the Seahawks secondary is good. But when I look at these defenses, this is where, even with the Seahawks having a good secondary, a solid secondary, I know Stafford was able to take advantage of them, but that's why Stafford's one of the best players in the NFL. But this Patriots secondary, I really like them. Christian Gonzalez up against Jackson Smith-Njigba. If they do have him trail, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a fun one. I remember talking to Christian Gonzalez. It was the day before he got drafted. And he said, I want to make an immediate impact in the NFL. He models his game after Pat Surtain. At the time, Sauce Gardner was a really good cornerback in this league. And he said, look at Pat Surtain, look at Sauce Gardner, the way that they've just come into the league and they've taken the league by storm, because Sauce had a really good year and a half, run in the NFL right before Christian Gonzalez got drafted. Then we saw that Sauce was a little bit overrated, but Christian Gonzalez one of the better corners in this league. But outside of that, Carlton Davis will make one or two boneheaded plays a game, but he's a solid number 2 corner. Jalen Hawkins has been a wonderful surprise for the Patriots this season. You went into the year and the Patriots traded 2 members of their secondary in Kyle Duggar and then also Jabril Peppers. They got rid of both of them right before the start of the season. and the emergence of a youngster in Craig Woodson. You've had Jalen Hawkins as well, have been really good. And then in the slot, the nickel cornerback, Marcus Jones, that is a guy that just makes plays. He is someone that don't be surprised if the Patriots put him in an offense a little bit and try to run a trick play. We know he can return punts, and he's an excellent punt returner. And when the Patriots score touchdowns defensively, it seems like it's on Marcus Jones. So, like, I look at these two teams, and obviously special teams can always play a factor, but I don't think the gap is as wide as what people think. Like, a lot of people look at this gap, and they sit there, and on paper, they go, hey, the Seahawks are the better team. And I could see why you say that the Seahawks are the better team with them sitting there with a 14-3 record on the season. But the Patriots also had a 14-3 record on the season, in the regular season. But the Seahawks in the postseason, they have been playing better. It was lopsided up against the 49ers. You had a great opponent in the Rams. That was a heavyweight fight. But the Patriots aren't going to get their due because a lot of people have been knocking them all season. All right, they have the number 2 seed. They had an easy regular season schedule. All right, you get into the postseason. The Chargers, Herbert didn't have his best game. The offensive line stunk. The Texans, all right, the Patriots defense played great, but you take a glance at the Texans, their quarterback was horrible. AFC Championship game, the Broncos didn't have Bo Nix. Like, I understand why the excuses are made, but it doesn't mean that the Patriots aren't a good team, and it doesn't mean the Patriots can't win on Sunday. So I understand, and I'm not surprised that Vegas has the Seahawks as the favorite, and they've been the favorite all throughout this matchup, and I expected that, and I anticipated that, regardless if the Seahawks or the Rams won. But the thing that annoys me a little bit, I guess I will say, is that this Patriot defense reminds me of the early 2000 Patriot defenses. And sure, the Patriots were not expected to beat the Rams in that Super Bowl 36. They were expected to beat the Panthers. They were expected to beat the Eagles. And this team, I'm not directly comparing them to that team that won Super Bowl 36, but that defense was a huge storyline going up against the greatest show on turf with Kurt Warner, with Torrey Holt, with Isaac Bruce, and Marshall Faulk, and obviously the quarterback in Kurt Warner. So you look at what that Patriots defense did, and Ty Law had a huge interception in the game. I could see this Patriots defense channeling that inner Super Bowl 36 group, which Mike Vrabel was on, and now he's the coach. And this Seahawks offense, as good as it is, it's not the greatest show on turf. Is Jackson Smith-Njigba a scary football player? Absolutely. Is Kenneth Walker a heck of a back? Absolutely. Is Cooper Kupp a Super Bowl MVP? Yes. Is Sam Darnold now a good quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in this league? Yes. But it's not like I view that offense as it's a defense that with the Patriots have. They can't hang and they can't prevent that offense. This Patriots defense is on a good run. This Patriots defense, I didn't know how good they were before the start of the season. I didn't. On paper, I'm like, okay, they're good, but like, could they be great? They have showed us in the postseason they have the potential to be great. And if the Patriots are able to get a great performance out of their defense, and Drake May just protects the football and uses his legs, I could see the Patriots winning this game. Like, I go into this week, and if I thought they were going to lose, I'll tell you I'm going to lose. And maybe that changes on Tuesday. Maybe that changes on Wednesday. Maybe that changes on Thursday. Maybe we do the show on Friday, and then I wake up Saturday, I go, oh, man, reality settling in. Everyone's telling me the Seahawks are going to win, or Sunday. Everyone thinks Seahawks are going to win. Maybe I start to see that. But so far, every day I've woke up since we know that this was a matchup, and I think the Patriots are going to win. I do. I just see it. I haven't really thought about the score. Maybe it's 28-24. Maybe it's 24-21. Maybe it gets to 28-27. But I think the Patriots are capable of keeping the Seahawks team to 24 points or fewer. Now, can they get to 25 or more if it gets up to 24? That's the big question. But Drake May, I think people have disrespected him because he has not been playing great as of late. But I do think that this is a Patriot team that can win the game coming up on Sunday. All right, let's go out to the guest line right now. We'll blow off the break here because Lofa Tatupu is here with us. Lofa, my man, former Seahawks linebacker, obviously his father, who I once met when I was a kid, and I sent him the picture because I found it in some scrapbook that I had. at a Patriot game, used to play for the Patriots. He is kind enough to join us right now. That is the great Lofa Tatupu. Lofa, how are you, my man?
I'm blessed, man. It's good to see you, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, so what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, you grew up rooting for the Patriots, but you played your football for the Seattle Seahawks to get to a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. You go into this Super Bowl 60. What are you feeling now as we finally kick off Super Bowl week?
It's much the sentiments that you were saying. Like, if the Hawks protect the ball, they don't turn it over, and they play great defense, field position. The one thing I see that could be like the X factor is the unbelievable team. Third phase of the Hawks team is the special teams unit, which my father was known for over in New England. So, well, they've scored like 6 touchdowns, and then 3 or 4 of which came after the trade for Rashid Shaheed. He's been unbelievable, and they're working him into the offense a little more. But I love the story of it. For me, is defense, man. I'm so happy to see 2 defensive coaches. Maybe I'm a little biased on that one, but unbelievable job. Second year for McDonald, first year for Vrabel. Man, I can't wait to see it.
It is funny because this league is now offense, offense, offense. And when you hire, it's what innovative offensive mind can you find? Like, who's the next Sean McVay? If you had a sip of coffee with Sean McVay, you become a head coach. For Mike McDonald, who last year, they had a solid, they were 9-8. It wasn't like they were a disaster. They just missed out on the 10-7. Sorry. They just missed out on the postseason. And it wasn't like they had some bad team. It just, those kind of years happen. Like, I remember the Patriots one year were 11-5 with Matt Castle, and they didn't make the postseason. And then Mike Vrabel, I know he wanted out at the end, but Tennessee, for putting him in a position where he wanted out, shame on them. And now they're looking for another head coach. But to see 2 defensive coaches in this spot, it's pretty damn cool. And it's different with how much we all slobber over offense these days.
You said it, brother. Like, everybody's, what's the next cutting edge innovation of football? Doesn't matter how much change is inevitable. Doesn't matter how much time changes, though, or passes. Defense wins championships. And so to see these 2 guys, with just 2 unbelievable, well-coached defensive units, it's going to be fun to watch because man, this defense, I can't put them in the LOB category yet, but some of the things they're doing are very reminiscent of it. And now it's just, can you sustain it for 4 years or more, which is what made LOB so great.
And because of the personalities of the Legion of Boom, right, with Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman, and you go on and on and on, we only focused on really the secondary. But that entire defense, especially up front, was absolutely loaded. But with this unit, with the Seahawks, and it's different. Like, you look at the defense, like, oh, they're really damn good. But you do start up with the big boys up front with this defense, which is a little bit different.
Oh, front loaded, absolutely. And heavy, strong, fast, physical, athletic, everything you would like in a defensive line. And it's the depth, like 2 deep. We've had guys, starters all throughout the year at every level, miss multiple games. And it was just plug and play. And some guys, they stepped up, that just speaks to the depth, right? And there's going to be guys on this defense that are going to get paid a lot to go elsewhere because you can't keep everybody. But I thought when we picked up, said it, preseason or free agency, when we picked up DeMarcus Lawrence, I go, if he is even 70% of what he was 2 years ago, that is the steal of, the offseason. I know everybody gets excited about other, skilled positions, but man, he looks young, and probably because he finally has a lot more help than just, Parsons opposite him, that like he did in Dallas. And so him lined up next to Big Cat, Leonard Williams, and then you go down the line, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, and then you got 4 guys outside, the 2 deep each side, much like you were talking about the Legion of Boom, when they had 2 All-Pros. The Legion of Boom had 2 All-Pros on the bench. So Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill were not starting on that Super Bowl team because it was Red Bryant and Chris Clemens. So that's like the type of depth we're getting to over here, man. It's unbelievable.
Lofa Tatupu here with us, Patriots and the Seahawks. Sam Darnold, this story, it was cool last year, but then it's just to a different level this year. And I've always thought the last 2 years, I thought that Geno Smith had an expiration date and it was another cool turnaround story, but you weren't going to win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. I always viewed Seattle as a good destination, but then they get rid of DK Metcalf. They say goodbye finally to Tyler Lockett. Sure, Jackson Smith and Jigba was worthy of being a number one wide receiver, and he proved it this year. But Sam, to take his game to that next level this year, how surprised are you when they brought him in to what he's doing right now for this football team?
I thought he'd be fine. Regular season, it was the big game that was a question for me, right? Because I watched a lot of the Minnesota games last year, and just you had all the weapons. You had Aaron Jones. You had a good offensive line that with plenty of time to throw it to Jefferson and Addison. So I was like, okay, you can get rid of those two, guys that have just been there for us for the last several years, and Lockett and Metcalf, and you asked JSN to slide to a number one spot. That's a tall order for any receiver, but he's more than rise to the occasion. So our run game in years past it just wasn't there, largely because all of our offensive line has been shuffled. More combinations, I think, than any quarterbacks ever played with. But our main two guys, Abe and Cross, were out for multiple games last year. They're healthy this year. We go to the draft and get Gray Zabel, right? He's can play all up and down that line, even center if he has to. And it's awesome to see us, like a coach that says, I want to run the ball. And then that's really where they start, and it opens up everything off of it. So even there's been games, I think Kubiak's done a phenomenal job, that there's been games where there's been 25 plus carries, and we haven't averaged more than 4 yards, or we weren't like, it wasn't like something like, oh yeah, we can just get 4 yards here. It was like sticking to it to set up other plays. And then also just giving our defense time to get fresh, healthy, and, get back out there and get after the quarterback.
I know it could be a weird spot for you, but it's the nature of the business. Clearly, you're close with Pete Carroll, playing for him and coaching alongside of him. We know he's out with the Raiders, and Clint Kubiak, it looks like, with the way the reporting goes with the game coming up on Sunday, is going to get the Raiders job. What are the Raiders getting if, in fact, it ends up being Clint Kubiak?
Man, it's much like I said about Pete taking that job. The hardest times for a coach is the first time, and presumably the last time, because the first time you have to know who you can trust when you're delegating all the responsibility of the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and then not micromanage, but just like, hey, like, okay, I see what you're doing, but this is how we do it, right? Because they have to learn your language, your culture, everything. And so, but Kubiak, play design and call wise, and we've seen it, with McVay and all that tree that he's had, Shanahan, everybody that's came out of there, seemingly, they know how to call a game and how to prepare. So it's I don't want to see him leave yet, but you can't argue with like the success he's had. And so just one more game, right, before we make that decision, or he makes that decision. And like the other thing I was saying about that with the Pete, the last time you put a staff together, all the guys that you brought up are now head coaches. Those are all like the guys you're going against. And so that's the toughest time, right, to put a staff together, first time and last time.
Well, for Tupu here with us. So you've gone through preparing for a Super Bowl as a player, also as a coach. What are these 2 weeks like, and how much of a mental battle is it, just knowing this is such a huge game, the biggest game of your life, and you just probably want to get to it when Sunday comes around, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think when I was playing, I watched every game that the Steelers had like 5 times. Like I watched the whole season 5 times, right? And it's you don't have that long, even during a normal traditional bye week where you seemingly get 2 weeks off. You're not watching, like, you actually get a little break, you get away, and then you get back to business on the schedule. And so just stay the course and stay focused. But the biggest distraction for me really was like the halftime was like so long. It's like you played a half, you're like, all right, let's go make our adjustments, get back out there, and like your body's already ready to walk to the door, like it's just on that body clock. And they're like, oh, you still got like 40 minutes. I was like, okay. So then Holmgren had us prepared. He's like, hey, get back out there and warm up. Like, you don't want to pull anything. You have to get back into like a full sweat, like we're playing a normal second half. But yeah, you after 2 weeks of watching the same team, you just want to let the tiger out of the cage, so to speak. You're like, all right, come on, man. Like, open up the gates.
And you know what happens when you lose and you get this far and you lose in this spot? Sometimes there's narratives that are built in the moment, and then other times, like a week later, narratives happen. When you were a player, the narrative right away was the officiating. Like in the moment, did you walk off that field? And yeah, it's like you're devastated. You lose the Super Bowl to the Steelers, but you're like, man, we really got jobbed and hosed by the officials.
In the moment, absolutely not. I mean, it's like no one cares. Play better. No one cares. Play harder, right? And there wasn't a ton of like noise about it on the sidelines. Like like guys stayed in the moment, and like when that many things happen, that aren't in your favor, you should lose by 3 or 4 scores, and just with 21-10, nothing to be ashamed of or hang your head about, but. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'll always remember the sting of like the confetti flying down and just like them celebrating. But it's the game you dreamed of since you were a kid.
And then clearly the Super Bowl that you were a coach for was the Patriot Seahawk one, right?
Well, I got there 2 weeks after. So
Oh, you got okay.
Yeah.
So, but in the aftermath of that, how did you kind of like walking into there? Did you feel the awkwardness and how that was so separated, defense and offense?
Yeah, it was tense. I think just because everyone questioned, right? It's just like, what happened, and they're like replaying one play, and even those champions know it doesn't define it, but when it is like the last play, yeah, it'll get talked about and brought up, for the forever. And so, but just I think the biggest thing was because I've even when I was watching it, I was like, oh, well, it's man coverage. Like it wasn't a horrible play. It was the play of Malcolm Butler's life. Like veteran Pro Bowl players might not have stepped in front and made that play. Like it was just the perfect storm. But absolutely, when you sit there and look at the situation and like, you got Marshawn Lynch and who's a Hightower made like the game saving
right at the
tackle.
goal line.
Like, because I thought he was going in anyways, and Marshawn was probably surprised that someone got him down. But it was an epic battle, and I think the question they were left with was just like, okay, like not even a chance, even though it is very minimal chance when you're gapped out for anyone to run for 1 yard and a touchdown. Everyone's still going with Marshawn at least one time, and then roll out Russ and let him do his thing, right? Because he's done it so many times. But it was, I mean, going back, I could still picture it's like, Brandon Browner, former
jam the guy,
jammed curse, and Lockett came through, but that ball has to be low on the back hip. It cannot be high out in front. In the field, that's a perfect play because no corner is going to play it that tight. In the end, the red zone, end zone goal line, there's nowhere else to go. He catches the ball, it's a touchdown. So Butler played it like phenomenal.
The Russell Wilson since then, because I'm sure this will get brought up when you get to like Wednesday of the week and people are just already tired of the storylines. Is like, just get us to the game. Russell Wilson, since leaving Seattle, it has not gone his way, and he's no longer a starting quarterback in this league. Are you surprised how that all did go down with his exit from Seattle a few years ago and how it just hasn't been successful for him since then?
A lot goes into it, right? Nothing ever comes down to one guy. So I don't even think that it's all on Russ, situationally, and just like, I thought the way it was handled, more importantly, because when he was in his last year here, I read into some things that just didn't match up of I'm not going anywhere type things, and then come back around and like his team, so to speak, is like, but these are the three destinations if something were to happen. So it's like there's obviously disconnect from player and organization at that point. And so Denver, I mean, they weren't as strong, right? As they are now. Sean Payton's done a hell of a job over there. But not getting along with Sean surprised me because Russell is the ultimate competitor. And that's what, Sean, you look at the guys he's had in the past, Drew, all these guys, those are guys that, Sean always got the best at. Even Bo Nix, like very competitive guy. And, not surprised that he's got him, already ascending to incredible heights.
Love for the Tupa here with us. You being a defensive player, what is your read on Drake May? Because he's had an MVP caliber season, but in the postseason so far, he hasn't been at his best.
Yeah, you got to do what's required of you to win. And I think that is the mark of a true champion. I'm sure if we look back early in Brady's career, there was a couple games where statistically wasn't amazing in the postseason play, but protected the ball, took what they gave. Like, I remember, Kevin Falk, Shane Vereen, like that's where Henderson, that guy comes up in my mind as a defender. I know I haven't seen a lot of them, but if the run game is stopped and they shift to like 11 personnel and spread everybody out, that's where my focus would be as a defender is like, I'm not forgetting because Vrabel was on a lot of those teams with Falk, right? And so it's like, all right, I'm going to keep that store that back here and just remind everybody when it happens.
And these coaches, they empty the bag because it's the last game of the season. So I feel like I'm in dodgeball. You can't hold anything back now. But you got Shaheed, who's capable of making one of those plays. Henderson, like you said, I know the Patriots even, I think it was Chisholm earlier on in the postseason, they threw the football with him. And McDaniels has had those moments before. It wouldn't surprise me if both these teams dial up a trick play in this Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely. So you must play your keys and play it honest, right? This isn't the time to reinvent any defense or any scheme. Just play your read, to the best of your ability, and then when the ball crosses that line of scrimmage, it's hell on earth, man. Like now it's on, and like nothing to worry about. It's get to the ball as fast as you can. But dude, I mean, what is it like? Special teams trick plays could happen, like everything. And then Vrabel also, great D end in his own right, but one of the best tight ends, one of the most efficient with what was it, like 11 of 11 or 12 of 12 targets and touchdowns. Could see something like that happening at the goal line.
Yeah, maybe a Kyrus Tonga, who's been a fullback, defense line, they put him at fullback. Maybe they hand the ball off to him, at that Super Bowl, go a little like refrigerator Perry style.
Perry style?
Yeah. Look, last thing I'll ask you, just because clearly you still love your USC Trojans. Lincoln Riley had a solid year this year, but better than what people thought. I don't love that the whole Notre Dame USC thing isn't going to happen in the future. But what do you kind of think is the state of your program right now in this just bizarre landscape of college football?
Oh, it's definitely bizarre, brother. But we gotta get in the playoffs. Like, I think if it doesn't happen this year, I don't know if or when it ever happens. And so definitely, I wouldn't say on the hot seat. I thought he had a hell of a year too, much like you're saying. And going into the Big Ten is a lot different, right? You have to recruit, some dudes that don't mind the cold weather. Not saying that the current players don't like the cold weather, but it's like, hey, man, we, going over to, what was it, Indiana in December and other places like Rutgers, like it's gonna be cold over there, guys. Bundle up. But I do. Ooh, they got Patterson.
As defensive coordinator, yeah.
And I thought he had one of the best coaching jobs at TCU, kind of like Peterson up at Boise. It was always anytime they stepped out of conference to a big team, everyone said they played up. I was like, no, they do this every time they step on the field, and so he finds competitors, and they have a long list of guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, was at Boise, right? And then my boy David Hawthorne was at TCU, and they had a run on linebackers. Like there's like 10 of them drafted in like 5 or 6 years in a row in their heyday. So looking forward to just going and finding some dogs, right? And just going hunting.
He's Lofa Tatupu. Lofa, great to catch up with you. You be well. Appreciate you jumping on board with us.
Zach, take care. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it. There he is, Lofa Tatupu. And you look at right now, college football, a program like USC. The questions are, can Lincoln Riley make the college football playoff? And Lincoln Riley, when he was at Oklahoma, that's all he did. Now, he never won a college football playoff game. And I always thought he was a little overrated. Not saying he was bad, but everyone made it out like as if Lincoln Riley was the greatest coach of all time. And I'm like, all right, the guy's good. He's just not great. Even with all those Heisman Trophy winners and those number 1 overall draft picks. But they dominated the Big 12. And they had a road each and every year where the Big 12 was going to go through Oklahoma, and you knew that Lincoln Riley was going to get there. But then he goes to USC, and you see the expansion of the college football playoff, and it's like, all right, in a 12-team college football playoff, a guy like Lincoln Riley, if he can make it in 4, even going to the Big 10 and USC and all that, and then they change the conference, right? He should be able to get there in 4, but he hasn't. And, he hasn't been able to get there in a 12-team system. I know it's only been around for 2 years. So, like an unintended consequence, and it's weird because you can be hypocritical about this, for going to 12, right? A lot of coaches look at it, oh, it's more access. It's better that we could get there. But if you don't make it, it's even more embarrassing. Than ever. And Lincoln Riley did have a bad season. USC was actually good this year, better than what people expected. But because of NIL, you look at a program like Mike Norvell at Florida State, and I just saw that Gus Malzahn announced his retirement today, the offensive coordinator. Sure, they got hosed out of the 4-team college football playoff, but a guy like that, they run back with him this year because they're afraid that they're going to lose his recruits. Like Billy Napier is a perfect example of that. Billy Napier should have been fired last year. He got an extra year because Florida was afraid that if you get rid of Billy Napier, that DJ Lagway was going to run. Now, ultimately, that wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, but at the time, I got why they did that. So we're in an era now of college football playoff where with the 12-team format, yes, there's more pressure on coaches to get there. And sure, there was a ton of big coaches that got fired this year. But if you don't have the ship sink and you could just hang around, like Lincoln Riley's just hung around, then you're going to get guys and you're going to get your AD not going to be willing to move on, because if you do move on from the coach, all that recruiting you had to do, everyone's going to hit the portal. So it is a weird spot for a lack of accountability now in college football. All righty, good stuff. Alofa Tatupu. We'll take our first break of the day. Zach Gelb here with you. You're listening to 365 Sports.
The 4-burner, side sear burner with Clearview glass stainless steel grill from Monument Grills. Made of tempered glass, which is strong, insulated, and allows you to check your grilling without lifting the lid. Our porcelain-coated cast iron cooking grids offer a large cooking surface of 513.3 square inches, primary cooking area, with even heat cooking. The Monument Grills include LED control knobs and are easy to light with pilotless electronic ignition. Better grilling, better value, Monument Grills.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
I'm Abby Dommett, 2023 CrossFit Games athlete, and I use Airwave because it helps me breathe easier and stay more relaxed during my workouts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Very discreet.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. You could always give me a follow on Twitter or Instagram at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB, or you can get me on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. And if you're watching us live now on YouTube, as you could do Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, make sure that you subscribe right as you are watching us. If you're listening to us in podcast form in the aftermath of our live broadcast, make sure you type right now youtube.com/@365sportsyt, and make sure you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. We will be pumping out a ton of content throughout the rest of the week. I will get to San Francisco coming up tomorrow night. I land at about 11 p.m. local time. Got a college basketball game tonight for Compass Media Network, so I will be doing pre, half, and post for a good Big 12 showdown between Kansas and Texas Tech. And we will be able to follow a little bit, assuming he plays. I saw that he wasn't on the injury report coming off their win over the weekend, but the freshman sensation for the Jayhawks in Darren Peterson, it was only played in 11 games this season. But up against their victory up against BYU at 18 points in only 20 minutes, and he had to leave the game with a cramping issue. He is expected to go tonight. I don't know if that's official, but I saw that he wasn't on the injury report. And yeah, he's been a heck of a player this year for them in the limited time that he's been able to get out there. Like, think about it. He's only played in 11 games this season, and people are talking about him being the number 1 overall pick in this coming NBA draft. So it will be fun to see Kansas with Bill Self go into Lubbock, Texas tonight, where they'll be going up against a Red Raiders team who's undefeated 11-0 at home this year. So I know not necessarily college basketball is on everybody's mind right now with the Super Bowl week being here, but I got 3 Compass games actually this week. I'm doing the game tonight, pre, half, and post, and then when I do these out of a studio, just it's studio hosting, so I don't got to be there. It'd be cool if I was able to be there, but then later on in the week I got UConn and St. John's. And Pitino's squad hasn't been as strong as last year, but UConn with Danny Hurley, they only have 1 loss on the season, and I believe that was to Arizona. And then on Saturday, I get Duke and North Carolina, and Boozer has been the preeminent player in college basketball, and UNC is actually going to be in action tonight going up against unranked Syracuse. So I got 3 games this week. Kansas, Texas Tech, UConn, St. John's, Duke, and North Carolina as well. So you start to get a little taste of college basketball into the fold where the sport has changed. Now, obviously, it has changed from what it used to be, where I felt like when I was growing up, we really paid attention to more college basketball during the regular season. And it's ironic because I do college basketball games and I'm saying this, but I just tell you the way that I feel. And if people don't like it, people don't like it. But it feels from a national perspective, a lot of people do parachute in to the college basketball landscape, conference tournament time, obviously March Madness time. But once you do have this football season end on Sunday, sure, people go right to the NFL draft. But with the college football offseason dying on draft being until the end of April, yes, the combine is right around the corner. Yes, free agency in the NFL is right around the corner. Trades always happen, and et cetera, and et cetera. But from a sports watching standpoint, you do have the Olympics this year. Like, the Olympics, it's fun background fodder. It is good background fodder. The hockey I do like, but in hockey is not. I love hockey, but nationally it doesn't really pop in the regular season. You only really find out about it come the Olympics. These events like this, the 4 nations last year, now the Olympics. Postseason hockey always does play. The NBA, the regular season isn't as juicy, and that's by design by the NBA. There's going to be huge stories about Giannis, and is he actually to get traded by the deadline? LeBron, I don't think this is his final year in the NBA, but people look at LeBron. What is he going to do next year? But there's no, outside of the Giannis trade watch, there's no direct story that you need right now in the NBA. So when you have the Olympics, which it's more background fodder to me, when you got the NHL, a lot of people just want to see what's going to happen in the postseason, even though I'm a huge hockey fan. NBA right now, it's like, okay, is Giannis actually going to get dealt? It is a spot where college basketball that is open this year with Arizona and Michigan and UConn Well, we'll see if Gonzaga could have it translate into the postseason. You have Nebraska, you got Illinois, just like some of these teams, and Michigan State, they just lost to Michigan. There's a lot of teams just looking at the AP top 25 that are right there that, yeah, sure, Arizona's undefeated, but Tommy Lloyd hasn't got past the Sweet 16 since being their coach. And the latest top 25 rankings that come out today, and you got Arizona 1, Michigan 2, UConn is actually they moved down to 3, so they dropped them down a spot after that Michigan State win. For Michigan, Duke is sitting there at 4, Illinois is 5, 19-3, Gonzaga is 6 at 22-1. So you look at these rankings that are there right now in college basketball, and it's open. Iowa State and Houston and Nebraska and Michigan State, Kansas and Purdue. This is right there for the taking. And who knows? You never know who ends up making that run, like at FAU or George Mason, going back all those years. BYU obviously has a heck of a team as well. Florida, the reigning national champs, they beat Alabama pretty good over the weekend. Florida is 17th in the country at 16-6. So there is a spot here for college basketball for the next few weeks, maybe get some people on board before you just tune into early March for March Madness and also the conference tournament games. So we'll see how much college basketball does dominate the conversation in February. All righty, let's take a quick break here. I know it took us a while to get to a break today because we went 30 minutes in and then we did the interview right with Lofa Tatupu. So let's take a break. We'll come on back on the other side after we reset. We will get into the coaching carousel hiring. Mike LaFleur off to the Cardinals. It looks like Clint Kubiak, who's going to be the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, they are working to reach a deal, a.k.a. once the Super Bowl is over, as long as he doesn't pull a Josh McDaniels, which I don't think Clint Kubiak's going to do. Clint Kubiak is going to be the coach of the Raiders, so we appear to have all 10 jobs that are filled on up in the NFL. I will give you a few words about each of these jobs and the hires that they made and my thoughts on them and what they need to do in order to have success. And the Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports continues after these short messages.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, come on in.
Thanks. I'm having an issue with Ralph.
With Ralph?
He keeps stealing my lunch.
He's just researching new flavors.
That is slow smoked turkey.
Ralph steals my lunch all the time. You get used to it.
He also peed on my bag.
He is warming up to you. Starting a new job, it's a big change. I want you to think about how you can be more accommodating to Ralph. We're all co-owners here.
If I'm only wearing one suit this summer, it has to be Tuileries Performance Linen. It's wrinkle resistant, machine washable, and built with stretch and breathability that actually moves with you. It'll keep you cool, sharp, and stress-free at your next event.
What does being different mean to me? That is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
But love is passion. Someone you can't live without. What do you want?
What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, the NFL coaching hiring cycle appears to be coming to a close. We know that the Cardinals have hired Mike LaFleur to be their next head football coach. The Raiders, it appears that they're going to get a deal done with Clint Kubiak. So Cardinals land Mike LaFleur, Raiders Clint Kubiak, Giants John Harbaugh, Falcons Kevin Stefanski, Dolphins Jeff Hafley, Tennessee Titans with Robert Saleh, Ravens with Jesse Minter, the Steelers with Mike McCarthy, the Bills with Joe Brady, and the Browns. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Ho, ho, taking Todd Monken. So I'm going to do this. I'll give you a statement, and it's going to be 5 words or fewer, and then I'll expand off it. So I'll give you the team. I'll give you the coach's name. I'll give you my feelings on the hire in 5 words or less with just the saying, and then I will further expand on that. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. With Todd Monken, it's will last 2 years max. Make sure that's 5. Will last 2 years max. I'm not optimistic about this hire. Todd Monken has a good coaching background. We saw what he did at Georgia. Obviously, he was a long ride in Baltimore the last few seasons, but in the big games, and I know Cleveland would just like to get to big games, I was always unimpressed with the offenses in Baltimore with Todd Monken, especially that AFC Championship game. I didn't like that they didn't run the ball enough, and I didn't like that they didn't utilize Lamar Jackson's legs enough in that game. And I thought that the Ravens at the time, they were listening too much to the outside noise and the outside criticism of Lamar Jackson when Lamar is one of the best playmakers in this league. And I thought that they tried to win a certain way, and no one cares this time of the year how you win, just as long as you do win, right? Like you look at this Super Bowl with the Patriots, people are like, oh, they're sloppy. Oh, the strength of schedule's easy. Drake May's not playing great in the postseason. The offensive line is horrible. The Patriots are 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl. So I don't care, and I don't give a rat's ass. You tell me, oh, the schedule was weak. Drake May in the postseason has been at his best. The AFC was weak. Mahomes wasn't in the postseason. Lamar wasn't in the postseason. The Bengals weren't in the postseason. If the Patriots win the Super Bowl on Sunday, all those excuses, you could say what you want. The fact would be that they won a Super Bowl. Nobody is going to care on how they won it just as long as they won. And if you're one of those losers that if the Patriots win and you go, oh, it's the weakest Super Bowl champion of all time, that's how you know that you're really reaching. But I look at Todd Monken. I thought he tried to win a certain way with Lamar Jackson, and I think it cost them at times during their run together with the Baltimore Ravens. I look at the Browns. They don't have a quarterback for this year. I know we could all joke at Shedeur Sanders making a Pro Bowl, but that's a joke that he did, and Shedeur probably is going to be the starter. I don't anticipate that the Browns, maybe they take one with their second first-round pick, but I really don't believe that the Browns are going to get their quarterback in the first round and are probably going to have to wait till next year. Does Myles Garrett try to force his way out of town, even though he just signed that new contract? I would like to think no, because last year I remember Myles Garrett saying that he requested a trade. That right down next to me on Radio Row, which will be out there later in the week doing content there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Myles Garrett made it clear this isn't about money, and he wasn't going to be back in Cleveland, and he wanted to go to a Super Bowl contender. And the Browns said, okay, we'll pay you $40 million a year. And Myles Garrett said, yep, all that trade request, it was a bunch of hogwash. I'm going to come on back. But I look at this Browns team, even though they have a defense that's great, we'll see if the situation with Jim Schwartz does get rectified. On offense, they don't got a whole lot. And you bring in an offensive-minded coach where, let's be real, if it wasn't Cleveland, is Todd Monken getting a head coaching job this cycle? I don't think so. So you bring in an offensive coordinator that is a solid offensive coordinator. I don't believe he's head coaching material. And do I think that if I'm a Browns fan with how many coaches and quarterbacks that you rotated in, that this is going to go at least 3 years? No, I do not. So the 5-year words that I use for Todd Monken and the hire in Cleveland will last 2 years max. Now, let's go to the Bills and Joe Brady. It's the Josh Allen show. It's the Josh Allen show. As I count these on my fingers, if you can't be, if you're not watching us right now on YouTube and you're just listening to us in podcast form. Joe Brady got promoted. Sean McDermott got fired. Joe Brady got promoted when the offense was the biggest reason why the Buffalo Bills didn't advance to the AFC Championship game, because the quarterback was turning over the football. This hire by Joe Brady and by the Buffalo Bills hiring Joe Brady is a Josh Allen move. Josh Allen sat in on the interview process. Josh Allen and Sean McDermott didn't always have a warm and fuzzy and close relationship. The Pagula family listened to Josh Allen. The Pagula family let Josh Allen really make this hire, and they could say, okay, ultimately it was Brandon Beane's decision, and and Terry Pagula's decision. But when you have a quarterback sitting in on the interview and the offensive coordinator who has a good resume with what he did at LSU, then was in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers, didn't really work out, but the Panthers situation was a disaster. And at Buffalo, they've been good. I would have liked a different hire, but this seems as if, okay, we got to keep our quarterback happy. The quarterback is a fan of Joe Brady. Joe Brady was in line to eventually get a job, even though this year his stock, I don't want to say that it's soured, but his stock wasn't as high as the way that I thought it was before the season started. And could Joe Brady have got hired elsewhere? Yes. If Joe Brady wanted to go to Cleveland, I think they'd rather him over Todd Monken. If Joe Brady wanted to go to Arizona, I do think that the Cardinals would have rather had Joe Brady over Mike LaFleur. But it doesn't mean, as those were two of the least desirable jobs in the market, it doesn't mean that Joe Brady was high in demand in this cycle. And yes, if Josh Allen isn't the quarterback, Joe Brady probably doesn't get the job in Buffalo because that's a tough justification. If Josh Allen wasn't making this hire, it's a tough justification to say, okay, we get rid of the coach and Sean McDermott, who was deserving of getting fired, and he did a really good job in Buffalo, but it was time for a reset. And we're going to promote the offensive coordinator who was in charge of an offense that literally turned the football over so many times. That was the biggest reason why they didn't defeat and didn't slay the Denver Broncos to advance to the AFC Championship game. So the 5 words or less reaction to the Joe Brady hire, it's the Josh Allen show. I think this hire is all about keeping Josh Allen happy and who Josh Allen did want. All righty, the Steelers with Mike McCarthy. The fallen standard. Simple, easy peasy, 3 words. Mike Tomlin was a very good coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers for nearly 2 decades. Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But from 2017 and on, this team has had 6 one-and-dones. They were on, going back to 2016, a 7-game postseason losing streak, and they have not won a playoff game since the 2016 season. So you look at the Steelers, is Mike McCarthy a bad hire? No. Mike McCarthy is a damn good football coach. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl in Green Bay, went to Dallas. I get it. He wasn't spectacular in Dallas, but in 4 years, they made the playoffs 3 times. I just feel as if Mike McCarthy and Mike Tomlin, you make that swap, that it's a lot of the same. And it's a lateral move. Where Mike Tomlin in NFL circles is more respected than Mike McCarthy. People view Mike Tomlin as a better coach, but those resumes are awfully similar. Everywhere you go, pretty much you have respectable records. McCarthy, I understand, a few years below 500. Tomlin's never been below 500. McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. Tomlin has won a Super Bowl. But neither one of those coaches do I view them where with Tomlin, if he would have stayed in Pittsburgh, would have been anywhere close to winning a Super Bowl. And McCarthy walking into Pittsburgh, I don't – and I get it's a nice homecoming story and all that, and he was crying at the press conference, and it was a feel-good story. But I don't look at the Steelers all of a sudden as a Super Bowl contender because they brought in Mike McCarthy. I would have rather have rolled the dice on a Shula or a Kubiak, one of these unproven coordinators on the offensive, defensive side of the ball, and find a way to see if it's going to work that way. Bringing in Mike McCarthy, I think it's going to be a lot of the same with Mike Tomlin. Like, you'll go into the season, no one's really going to be talking nationally about the Steelers and them being this great team. They win a few games early. They go win 9, 10, or 11 games in the postseason. They're either going to lose the first round, or they make it to the divisional round, and then they're going to lose. And that's why I've used the term the fallen standard, or the standard has fallen in Pittsburgh, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are a 6-time Super Bowl championship winning organization. The Steelers are a franchise that are synonymous with Lombardi trophies. And now the equivalence of the Lombardi trophy for the Pittsburgh Steelers is just winning a playoff game. Like, they got to get that monkey off their back first, where they win a playoff game, something they haven't done since the 2016 season. And even though Mike McCarthy won a playoff game in Dallas, going up against a bad Buccaneers team, does bringing in Mike McCarthy exude confidence that the Steelers can get closer to a postseason victory than where they've been at any point in the last 7 years or so? Like, I don't think so. I really don't. So the standard has really fallen in Pittsburgh where I don't feel as if they are competing to win a Super Bowl anymore. It's just, can we get, can the Steelers get, excuse me, I'm not a Steelers fan. Can they get that monkey off their back? And yes, it was time to move off of Mike Tomlin, and Tomlin eventually moved off of you and did you a favor. But does bringing in McCarthy make me go, oh, golly, even for a coach I think is underappreciated, that the Steelers are definitely going to win a playoff game with him? No, but if they do win a playoff game, it will be celebrated like the Pittsburgh Steelers won a Super Bowl, because that fan base, which is one of the best fan bases in the NFL, it's a proud fan base. It's a fan base that is associated with winning, Super Bowls. They have not been anywhere close to a Super Bowl contender for actually more than 7 years now, basically a decade in the NFL. All right, the Ravens hiring Jesse Minter, the next Mike McDonald. Those are the words that I'm going to use. So a lot of people thought that the Ravens would eventually move off of John Harbaugh and Mike McDonald would have been the next head coach. Eventually, Mike McDonald, who has a similar path to Jesse Minter with the Harbaugh brothers, Michigan, the Ravens, then becomes a head coach. Mike McDonald has had a really good 2-year run so far in the NFL, where it was defensive-minded head coach. He's a player's coach who isn't a doormat. He's someone that first year was 10-7. Now they're in the Super Bowl. Defense has been sensational. You look at the Seahawks offense, it's not as if the Seahawks offense drives the train. I'm not sure selling the Seahawks offense. Sam Darnold's quarterback. Jack Smith-Njigba was the best wide receiver in football this year. Kenneth Walker is a good running back. The offensive line has been better. But that Seahawks defense up front has been a bunch of maulers. So the Ravens had Mike McDonald in their building, but because they still believed in John Harbaugh, they didn't get rid of John Harbaugh. And now 2 years later, McDonald has had back-to-back seasons where he's had some resemblance of success. I know they missed the playoffs last year, but they were 10-7. That's not a bad debut season. They just lost out on the tiebreaker, and now they're in the Super Bowl. Harbaugh's time with the Ravens was up. They had really good teams, but they weren't getting anywhere close to actually getting to a Super Bowl, let alone winning a Super Bowl. And a guy like Jesse Minter, who's coached in the NFL, Chargers with Jim Harbaugh the last year, goes back to Michigan, has been on that Ravens staff before. He winds up, and I got to think the Ravens bringing in Jesse Minter, who when they fired Harbaugh, I said, okay, make Marcus Freeman say no. And once he does say no, because I thought Marcus Freeman was going to stay at Notre Dame, you're going to go out there and you're going to hire Jesse Minter, because it feels like you're trying to find the next Mike McDonald. All right, for Robert Saleh with the Tennessee Titans, have to make Cam work, as we do that very choppy. Have to make Cam work. Boom, 5 words right there. 5 words or fewer on each coaching hire in the NFL. We have 10 of them, or expected to be 10 of them, with it looking like Clint Kubiak is going to be the coach of the Raiders. Robert Saleh in New York never had his quarterback, or never had the right quarterback. And I get it. They made the move to get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, 3 or 4 plays into the season, had the Achilles injury. Zach Wilson was an unmitigated disaster. He's going to Tennessee, where Brian Daboll is going to be the offensive coordinator. So you got the 2 coaches that didn't work in New York now running the ship in Tennessee. And Robert Saleh, his defenses are always really good. Even with all the pieces that they lost in San Francisco, look at the coaching job that he did this year. And sure, his defenses always weren't the best with the Jets, but it's nearly impossible to have a great defense, even though those Jets defenses had some overrated players on them, when your offense is doing nothing and your quarterback just keeps on turning over the football. For Robert Saleh in the second hire and the second run as a coach, and I understand why people like him, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's definitely going to work, because I don't know what Cam Ward's going to be on the NFL level. And I don't know if Tennessee, with their ownership situation, and sure, you have a GM, an up-and-coming GM, and Mike Borgonzi that comes over from Kansas City. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring in the right pieces to get the best out of Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward is a remarkable story. A former zero-star recruit, goes to Incarnate Word, finds his way to Washington State. And we saw last year, a Heisman finalist, did a really good job at Miami. But it's different being a really good college quarterback and then a really good pro quarterback. And a lot of times why these quarterbacks fail in the pros, it's not just because of them, it's because of the situation surrounding them. Now, Brian Daboll really did like Cam Ward in the pre-draft process. Robert Saleh is a good defensive coordinator, but is Robert Saleh more of just a good defensive coordinator, or could he be a good head coach? Like, for example, look at Todd Bowles. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Todd Bowles is Noel or Lombardi or Belichick, but Todd Bowles did not have a good tenure in New York, then got a job in Tampa Bay as a head coach after he won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator with Tom Brady as his quarterback. Traded a little bit of Tom Brady, but then after that, in walked Baker Mayfield, and they found a way to retool the career of Baker Mayfield. Todd Bowles is not going to be going down in the annals of NFL history as one of the all-time great coaches or even a very good coach. But Todd Bowles saved himself from being just viewed as a disastrous head coach with what he did in that second chapter away from the Jets, what he did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and what he continuously is still doing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is he found a way to get enough out of his quarterback position. So for Robert Saleh, what's going to determine if he ends up having a second, if he has a successful second chapter or not, or an improved second chapter, is going to be finding a way to make Cam Ward work. All right, the Dolphins, Jeff Hafley, building from the ground up. This Dolphins team, with the GM that they brought over from Green Bay, now bringing over defensive coordinator from Green Bay and Jeff Hafley, the Dolphins need to build from the ground up. And with how cost prohibitive it is to move off of Tua Tagovailoa, I do wonder if the options out there, like could they go sign Malik Wilson? Is that a gamble? Yes. Could they go improve that quarterback room and bring in competition for Tua? Yes. But with the money, how prematurely they elected to pay Tua, the way that the money is structured this year, it may not be the worst thing just to throw Tua to the Wolves this year. And just embrace the tank if you're the Miami Dolphins, which it is ironic. We once said tank for Tua. Now it's probably tanking with Tua. That is the way that I would say it, tanking with Tua. Because you look at this Dolphins team, they're just not that good. Who knows if Tyreek Hill will be back? Maybe they do pull the trigger on a Jalen Waddle trade this year and just do kind of what the Jets did, where the Jets, they got rid of Sauce Gardner, they got rid of Quinn Williams, and Darren Muji just accumulated a ton of draft picks, where the Jets have 5 first-round draft picks over the next 2 draft classes. Maybe the Dolphins and their new general manager and the new head coach say, okay, we don't have that many talented players. Let's at least use the talented players that we do have to accumulate the most amount of draft capital possible so we can really start to build this team and then eventually find, a different quarterback. Because Tua's not going to be the guy. And in all likelihood, they will probably say goodbye to Tua at the end of the year. At some point this offseason, I should say. But you're going to be able to bring in a guy this offseason in Miami that is going to help really change the direction of your franchise? And the answer is probably no. So if I were a Dolphins fan, I am building from the ground up. I want to rip this thing down, even though there's bare bones pieces remaining. You go get draft capital for those guys because you got to rebuild this house. And this regime, they should get 3 years. Year 1's a wash, year 2's improve, and then year 3, show me that you could be a playoff team. But you got to really build this thing from the ground up, because right now, this is a team that they were bad this year, but they won some games down the stretch. They won some games in the second half of the season where they're not in position to get that franchise quarterback. And sure, it's a weak quarterback draft class. Mendoza, in my estimation, should be the only first-round draft pick, but it will probably be 2. I would guess as early as 16. Ty Simpson does go, but they really got to build this thing up in Miami. And I think it's weird to say it, use the Jets plan, because the Jets have been so disastrous for so long, that you trade your successful players, the few that you do have, 4 picks, and you trade them now, and you get other picks, and then you just really commit to the tank this year for the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see what Hafley could do as they have to completely rebuild in Miami. All righty, get into the last 4 coaches here as we'll do 5 words or less on the higher in the cycle of the 10 we had open. Falcons, Kevin Stefanski. It's all about the quarterback. That's the saying that I'll use. Kevin Stefanski won 2 Coach of the Year awards in Cleveland. Now, it's come out he hasn't really had a good relationship with Baker Mayfield. But they were never able to find that quarterback. They went all in on Deshaun Watson. It didn't work. Baker was there. Then Baker had the shoulder injury. We didn't know if the poor player was because of Baker's lack of ability or the injury. We didn't know which one did come first. So I look at Baker Mayfield and that situation in Cleveland. Stefanski was still able to, even with bringing in Deshaun Watson, he was still able to bring in win 2 Coach of the Year awards. and made the playoffs 2 times in Cleveland and won a playoff game in Cleveland. If you understand the history of that franchise, that is a heck of a coaching job by Kevin Stefanski. And I thought Stefanski was one of the coaches that he would be elated. Usually when coaches get fired, they're not elated. Stefanski definitely was happy when he got fired. And it was obvious they were going to stick with Andrew Berry. They were going to get rid of Stefanski. And Stefanski's a good coach. I'm not going to call him a great coach. But for Stefanski, now you got to find your quarterback. And Kirk Cousins become available this offseason as they just wrapped up 2 years of that 4-year partnership with the Falcons. They are going to get out of that contract. That was a mess by Terry Fontenot from the start. You signed, and people tried to defend this undrafted. I never understood it. You signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year contract with the 8th overall pick, and you end up taking Michael Penix Jr., who, Michael Penix Jr., don't get me wrong, had a really good 2-year run at Washington, but he was a quarterback that had an abundance of injuries going back to his days at Indiana. Now suffers another injury here in the NFL. I always thought that Michael Penix Jr., when he was a draft prospect in the NFL, he was a good college quarterback. I didn't love his game translating well to the NFL because if you look at those intermediate throws on the sideline, the short throws down the sideline, and yes, Penix has a strong arm. He has a big arm. But a lot of those times, that's where there would be a lot of turnovers and a lot of interceptions. So do I think Michael Penix Jr., whenever he comes back, whenever he recovers, he'll get an opportunity? Do I think he's the guy in Atlanta? No. Like Malik Willis, talk about him going maybe to the Dolphins. I don't know if Malik Willis is going to be good. I don't. But if that's going to be the name that really emerges this offseason as a guy that's going to get a deal, a place like Atlanta, it'd be fun to see the creativity of Kevin Stefanski and how it will work with Malik Willis. Especially when you have a running back that is so good and really is the face of your franchise in a Bijan Robinson. But they have some good defensive players. They also got to find the quarterback because in this league, you either have the quarterback or you don't. And in Cleveland, Stefanski never really had the quarterback, and they never really had a long-term guy, and they were still able to win, Coach of the Year awards, a playoff game, and go to the playoffs. All righty, Giants, John Harbaugh. Back to respectability. Those are the words I'm going to use for the Giants. So the Giants have been a dreck. The Giants have been a laughing stock. The Giants have been a clown show for the last 10 years. And you bring in a coach like John Harbaugh, where do I still think John Harbaugh is a coach that wins a Super Bowl now in the NFL? Probably not. Like, John Harbaugh is a heck of a coach, heck of a resume, has won a Super Bowl the last few years, wasn't able to get the job done with Lamar Jackson, but the standards and the goals of the Ravens are not comparable and are not fair to say what the expectation was with Harbaugh with the Ravens should be the expectation of Harbaugh with the Giants. Now, all these coaches want to win. All these coaches are going to give you coaches speak, and they're going to say, hey, it's Super Bowl or bust. We are here to win a Super Bowl. But for the Giants, it's not about winning a Super Bowl right now. It's about getting you back on the train track and getting you on a destination that is to respectability. Because this organization, a proud franchise, a gold standard franchise, a franchise with a ton of history for the last 10 years, it has been one big giant mess. That's what it has been. And you bring in Harbaugh, even if you don't think he wins a Super Bowl anymore, like I don't, Harbaugh's going to be a guy that has a good culture. Harbaugh's going to be a guy that changed the standard. And you don't question the head coach of this football team. You know that bare minimum, you're getting a really good head football coach. And you got Jackson Dart, you got Malik Nabers, you're picking early in the draft. Maybe you get Carnell Tate, the wide receiver at Ohio State. I got to think that the defense and the players that they have and no longer having Shane Bowen there is going to be serviceable this year because it was embarrassing with the names of the Giants having that defense, how poorly they played. But Harbaugh's a coach that he will get the Giants back to some semblance of respectability. The Raiders, Clint Cooper, here are the words I'm going to use. Hope for the future. Those are the 4 words that I'll use. So I know Raiders fans could be like, oh, again? Zach, you're talking about the future? You got Ashton Genty, the 6th overall pick at running back. You got Brock Bowers 2 years in, arguably the best tight end in the NFL. You're going to have the number 1 overall pick. You got Fernando Mendoza, which is Mendoza a shoo-in to be a great pro quarterback? No. But Mendoza goes to Indiana, went from not even being talked about in draft conversations to a Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, undefeated national champion, and he has cemented himself as the number 1 overall pick in this draft. So, yes, you look up in that division, you see the Raiders with Herbert and Harbaugh. You look at that division, you have the Chiefs with Mahomes and Reed. Mahomes comes back from the injury. You look at the Broncos with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The AFC West is really good. And the Raiders, Yes, Max Crosby's there. We'll see if he's there for this season. But they just got the deal done this past offseason. You got really good young offensive players, and I'm a believer in Genti. Obviously, I'm a believer in Bowers. And you got a quarterback that, paired with the right offensive mind, it's a situation where there is some hope. Like last year, I walked into the Raiders season and I go, okay, they bring in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, it's just okay. You'll get maybe 3 years max. This is a 3-year contract. You just got to get this team back on the track. And in year one, which ended up being his only year, I didn't like the antiquated hire of Chip Kelly. I did not love the decision to bring in Geno Smith. I was advocating for them to go get Sam Darnold. And they ended up going with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. And early on, you knew this thing wasn't going to work. Geno Smith was a turnover machine. Time to retire. And Chip Kelly was fired early on in his tenure with the Raiders. Didn't make it to the full season. Now you get those 2 young players. You get what you hope is your franchise quarterback. And you get a coach who wants to be there. Clint Kubiak could have got a better job. Like the Steelers, I like if I'm Clint Kubiak, I would have really gone for the Steelers job. I would have really have said to myself, when you look around the lay of the land, like maybe I could have got the Ravens job. But Clint Kubiak is an offensive mind in this league, has had success, and he is someone that is deserving of a head coaching job. But he's going to a place where he gets paired up with Tom Brady and John Spytek. They have the number 1 overall pick, and he is going to get time with the Raiders. But with how many times the Raiders have moved off of coaches this year, Antonio Pierce or the past few years, Antonio Pierce one and done. You had the whole Gruden situation, which is more than just Gruden not just being up to par, but with the emails. Pete Carroll being one and done. I know that Mark Davis is not as impatient as Al, but Mark Davis is the most patient man. He's going to have to be patient. And this is a move where the Raiders make a hire where you go, okay, this is your guy. You remember when the Texans hired David Culley and they hired Lovie Smith? It felt like those guys were just stopgap guys. The Texans then brought in D'Amico Ryans. They got their quarterback. Boom. Even though the Texans have not won a Super Bowl, the Texans have had 3 straight years of making the postseason and 3 straight years of winning at least the playoff game. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen with the Raiders, but you look at what happened with the Texans and you look at what's happening with the Raiders, that is some similar stuff. Where now the Raiders had 2 one-and-done coaches. They make their hire in a Clint Kubiak, an established coordinator in this league. They have an early draft pick. The Texans had 2 and 3. They traded up to 3 to get Will Anderson. They had 2. They drafted C.J. Stroud and the Raiders. They have the number 1 overall pick, and they're going to get Fernando Mendoza. There's some hope for the future with the Raiders and Clint Kubiak. And then Michael Fleur. This one may not be nice with him going to the Cardinals. Lost in the desert. Those are the words that I'm going to use. I just don't see the plan out there in Arizona. You still have Monty Ossenfort as your general manager. You think about it, Jonathan Gannon. Okay. I never thought Jonathan Gannon was going to be this great head coach in this league. You don't have a quarterback. Marvin Harrison, for the first 2 years, just simply not popped off. You do have one of the better tight ends in the league in Trey McBride. But the Cardinals really just don't have much. And they're in a gauntlet of a division. Niners always competitive. The Rams, they have one of the best coaches in the league who just got an extension, Sean McVay, even though McVay didn't have a good NFC championship game. Stafford's still kicking it. He looks like he's going to win the MVP. And then, like, what do the Cardinals have? And I don't think Michael Fleur would have been hired as a head coach on maybe any of these other openings in the NFL. Like, if Clint Kubiak said to the Raiders, yeah, I'm gonna go back to Seattle, I'm not gonna go to you, maybe he winds up there. But I just don't think this is a job that's attractive, and this is the type of coach that you're going to get. But LaFleur comes from a good coaching tree. He has good relationships in the NFL. I'm not telling you I'm jacked up about this hire. I said lost in the desert to describe it. But is it because Michael LaFleur isn't deserving, or is it because the Cardinals are going to be bad because they can't find a quarterback and they don't have that good of a roster? It's really the latter. Now, LaFleur is going to get the brunt of the criticism. First, it'll be Monty Ossenfort because he's been there longer, and now this is another hire that he's made. But a guy like Jonathan Gannon, I don't think was the biggest issue there, but he's not a guy that really deserved to be a head coach anyway. And now you could argue It's an offensive version of Jonathan Gannon, but to a lesser extent by bringing in Mike LaFleur. So I just think that this is a hire that inevitably, in a few years from now, if that even, that Mike LaFleur is going to get sent packing. But if you find the young quarterback and you pair him with an offensive mind with the last name of LaFleur, maybe things start getting moving in the right direction with the Cardinals. But it's tough to envision that this one's going to be successful. So here are the words that I'm going to use, 5 words or less. Cardinals, Mike LaFleur, lost in the desert. Raiders, Clint Kubiak, hope for the future. Giants with John Harbaugh, back to respectability. Falcons with Kevin Stefanski, it's all about the quarterback. Dolphins with Jeff Hafley, building from the ground up. The Tennessee Titans with Robert Saleh have to make Cam work. The Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens with Jesse Minter, the next Mike McDonald. The Steelers with Mike McCarthy, the fallen standard. The Bills with Joe Brady, almost said Josh Allen. It's the Josh Allen show. And the Browns with Todd Monken will last 2 years max. Those are 5 words or fewer when I do take a glance and I look at the 10 coaching hires that have been made in the NFL. And the last one that just isn't final yet is the Raiders getting Clint Kubiak, but that deal is expected to happen with how it was reported over the weekend. But obviously, Clint Kubiak is coaching in the Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday up against the New England Patriots as the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. Take a timeout. We'll take our last break of the day. It's the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports.
What I love most about playing basketball is the competition. I really just like being shifty, mastering hesitation moves, changing direction, building chemistry with new teammates. If you're not having fun while you're playing, it's no point in playing the game. You know what to do. Escape Basic. Pair of Thieves quick dry underwear. It wicks away sweat and helps keep you dry. You looking forward to fishing season?
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
I'm here to work out with you.
We did not put this little cookie cutter program together.
I'm in there with you, sweating, yelling, doing the damn thing.
Transform by Core Home Fitness.
A secret, I travel internationally every year. I struggle with insomnia both at home and especially in hotels. This was life-changing. It's called Fly Kit. My favorite aspect of the Fly Kit is it tells you when to sleep.
Dude, check out this robe. This is the dude robe. It's perfect for after the shower, gym, or even the beach. This thing is awesome. It also has this super premium towel lining to dry you off right away. Dude, what are you waiting for? Get yourself a dude robe today.
At Dreamy, we believe that life can be upgraded in comfort, convenience, and joy. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. Sorry, I saw that the microphone was muted. Just had to find the way to turn it back on. We have one more live show this week. That's going to be tomorrow. We're going to do the show right here from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. Then after the show on Tuesday, I will bolt my way to the airport. I'll make a flight to San Francisco. Smokey and company, Paul, Catalina, those guys are already in San Francisco. So they're doing days of content on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I believe on Friday. But there will be no live shows for them. I think they're going to do like a recap show or something like that for about 30 minutes, maybe at the Airbnb that we're all going to. We will gather around and we will do a show or something like that. Like, I don't know what we're going to necessarily do, but the media landscape isn't the same as what it once was. And I know a lot of people that tune into us are traditional radio listeners from Smokey and Paul's days with ESPN Central Texas, from my time with CBS Sports Radio and the Infinity Sports Network, which, by the way, which a job that I left obviously at the end of the year. The Barrett Sports Media national radio rankings came out from the year of 2025. The Zach Gelb show was ranked 16th in the nation. So that's a credit to our team. That is, a team that I had. That's a credit to you, the listeners, that were so loyal to us, and also creating a show that was compelling with some of the biggest industry guests. And last year was a challenging year. When you find out in October that the network is basically coming to an end and got bought out, and they tell you that, and you still got to go to work each and every day and do a show through the conclusion of the year, it's not the easiest thing. But I was really damn proud of those shows that we did, and to see it get recognized and rewarded and acknowledged by some titans in the industry that vote a part of this Barrett Sports Media thing, which is all voted on by program directors and executives, for them to show that our show was a top 20 radio show in the country for a second year in a row. Last year we were 20th in the national radio rankings. This year we were 16th. With some limited resources that we had. Basically, we were just given a sandbox, and it was like, go, go, go. And people hear like, oh, CBS Sports Radio, Infinity Sports Network. Oh, it's like a big national brand and all that stuff. We were kind of just left alone to do the show. Like, hey, you make the company money, you save the company money, you do your show, Zach, and we're going to kind of leave you alone. And that's what they did. And, I love my bosses at Odyssey. I have no issues with Odyssey. It's more of with Westwood One, but they made a new network, and they had the ability to pick the lineup that they wanted to pick. And you look at the resources that we were given, which was basically just me, my producer Stamter, and Stu, and there were some complications there. But I was basically just doing a show that was going to be compelling, have some big breaking news reports that feature some of the best industry guests, and we had a product that was in the news a lot. I would say out of any show that aired on CBS Sports Radio in its existence, we made and I'm talking about since the inception of the network, we made the most national headlines in the history of the network. That's what was told for me by management. We were constantly in the news. So I'm proud of that show that we did. And that was a fun chapter of my career that was 8 years, from weekend overnights to 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Fridays, from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Fridays as well. Like, that is a show that I was damn proud of what we were able to do, where we were just given a small little space in a large sandbox, and we made a lot of cool freaking castles. So when I got that note today, and I didn't even know that we were like eligible, like, yeah, we did a show for all of 2025, but with the show not being around anymore, and I get it, January is 2026 and all that, I didn't know, since we were no longer a part of that, if we were going to be eligible. When I got a note from a program director this morning that I've never worked for, congratulating me, and I read those rankings. It was humbling. It was cool to see what we did and show what we did mattered. It really did. I will put those years that I did at CBS Sports Radio and Infinity Sports Network up against some of the best that I've ever done it. Like, you look at the way that we made news, the shows that we got featured on, and what we did, I'm damn proud of that. But we're now in a new media landscape where there's so many different ways to reach people. Like, we have a channel here at 365 Sports that has over 71,000 subscribers. Not every one of those 71,000 subscribers are tuning in for the live show, clearly. But a lot of them just click in when they can to just look at the videos that get posted. So I didn't know this was going to be the strategy. I did not. But I took a call over the weekend from Paul Catalina, who is the program director here. And he was sitting down with John Valade and Corey Dickman. They said, let's just produce as much content as possible at the Super Bowl. So we'll get there early, we'll leave late, and we will produce as many videos as we can. So we will do our show live tomorrow in New York from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time. The rest of the week, the way it's scheduled, we'll see if it happens throughout the rest of the week. Like, if we do one live show towards the end of the week, I'm told it's not going to happen, but would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't be surprised. But we are there to just pump out interviews after interviews after interviews, and we will get them all on the 365 Sports YouTube page. So I will be there for 3 days. The last 2 years, we've produced some of the biggest clips on Radio Row. An interview with Micah Parsons did over 4.5 million views. Last year with Warren Sapp walking off set with us did over 1 million views. Miles Garrett was making national headlines with us. And here are some of the guests that we're going to have for you. That's going to be dropped exclusively on YouTube on the 365 Sports YouTube channel. Once again, youtube.com/@365sportsyt. It's how you find all that content. But some of the guests that are going to join us already, and more will be added. Hetero McMillan, Brian Jones, Logan Ryan, Deion Dawkins, Sean Merriman, Jeff Garcia, Dennis Pitta, and Todd Heap together. Daniel Cormier, Patrick Willis, Sean Alexander, Ladd McConkey and Keaton Allen together. Kyle and Christian Juszczyk together. Justin Gaethje, Trey McBride, Emmett Smith, Ron Rivera, Devin Hester, DeMar Hamlin, the comedian in Jeff Ross. We're going to sit there, do the 10 to 15-minute interviews, and we're just going to post. And that goes not only for me, but that goes for Paul and Smokey. They're just going to sit there, do interviews, post, and we're going to really try to get as many content pieces up there on our YouTube channel for all of our great listeners and great subscribers to 365 Sports. So that's kind of the content strategy and the way that it was described to me. And then obviously, when we get back on Monday, you will have the regular 5 days of programming for the Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports. So we will podcast every interview we do. We will post every interview we do on YouTube. We will get social media clips out there as well. That's why it's really, really important this week. YouTube.com/@365sportsyt. Subscribe. Also on my personal social media channels, at Zach Gelb, ZACHELB on Twitter and Instagram. Once again, at Zach Gelb. And then on TikTok, at the Zach Gelb Show. So that is the plan. What I have learned doing this is that plans do change. So we shall see what ends up happening, but that's a content strategy that I've always been a good team player. Anywhere that I've ever gone, whether it was Sirius, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, 97.5 The Fanatic, obviously the national radio days, CBS Sports 3, and the Infinity Sports Network. So they give me a plan, and I look to execute the plan. And that's what we're going to try to do to our best of abilities. And I am so fired up to get to Radio Row, an event. This is going to be my 15th Radio Row. I'm only 31 years old. I've been to 15 Radio Rows, and I have always made headlines at Radio Row. So I'm really looking forward to getting out to the Super Bowl. I am going to the game. I will be going to the game on Sunday. I got my tickets in the upper deck. And after the game, I will have to bolt from Santa Clara back to San Francisco. And I will do that via, I think, a train. And then I have a late-night red-eye flight that will get me back to New York City as the weather holds up and all that stuff. And I will be back in New York on Monday morning and will bolt over to my apartment, maybe try to catch an hour or two of sleep. And we will do the live show on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 Central Time. So, I know it's a little bit different than what we normally do. If you don't see live from us or, the traditional live shows that we do with Paul and Craig and Smokey, that's why we are going to the Super Bowl, and they've already started that. We're going to start this on Wednesday. I got one more live show tomorrow where it's just pump out as much content as ever. We'll schedule the videos after we record them. They will premiere. You can watch all of them. So I'm telling you, we're going to have much places for Super Bowl coverage. YouTube.com/@365sportsyt. That's where you subscribe. That's where you find all the content. And as always, as you know, if you follow me, at Zach Gelb, Twitter and Instagram, at the Zach Gelb Show on TikTok, we will get you a ton of content up there, not only interviews, behind the scenes stuff, the Super Bowl venue, Levi Stadium, and all that stuff behind the scenes. We are one of your go-to destinations for Super Bowl week coverage, even though if you are a listener, someone that always tunes into 365 Sports, which we appreciate you, and we love you for doing so, it could be a little bit of an inconvenience for you this week. It could be out of your routine. I get that, but I believe in the people here, and I believe in their content strategy, and that's the content strategy that we're going to execute this week. All righty. That will do it for the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. You can catch us tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, the final live show of the week, before we do get out to San Francisco and just pump you out 3 great days of content. Big thanks to each and every one of you for tuning on in. Big thanks to Garrett Ross, who is already there in San Francisco. Work on that tan, Garrett Ross. Don't be afraid to take off that hat and get some sunshine on that cabeza of yours.
And I will join you in San Francisco tomorrow night. But we got to do one more show tomorrow right here in our New York City studios. I'm Zach Gelb. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.